You're listening to Never Heard of It, a Night Shift Radio original. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a rating and review if you're so inclined. For more information, visit nightshiftradio.com.
So, you know how we've both been streaming on Twitch lately?
Yeah.
I realize our schedules are very complementary. And I think that kind of works out because I stream during the day.
Yeah.
And then you stream at night.
We all stream for ice cream. Wait.
I would also stream for ice cream. I will gladly accept that as payment for streaming.
Yes.
Yeah.
I do tend to stream either like late at night before bed or like early evening, like after we're both done with work and dinner and whatnot.
Yeah.
Since my streaming setup is at my desk, which is next to Ellen's, and it wouldn't really be a great idea to be streaming while she's working.
Right. Right. In the background, we hear you being like, "Oh, you just crushed that guy's head," while she's talking to clients or whatever.
Yeah,
that would not be good.
Very important meeting.
Yeah. Or maybe it'd be cool, and people would be like, "Oh shit, don't mess with her husband. He crushed this guy's heads
fucking
all day during meetings."
It's funny because we used to work for the same company. Some of the people she works with know me.
Yeah.
And I think they would be really confused at the like just crazy like evil laughing that they would hear if I was trying to stream like Mortal Kombat.
Just the entire time. Yeah, you know,
my God! They froze the thing and made it into a knife and showed it through his fucking eye. Holy shit!
So the thing that I've noticed about streaming again, because I did it for a while, you know, and now that I'm back, is I realize is that I never stopped like talking to myself while I was gaming. Like I still did it all the time, but then when I turned the stream back on and I realized like, oh, like I just talk out loud to myself all the time.
Yeah.
And now people are just watching, so it becomes less awkward and became a business instead of just me sitting alone talking to myself playing video games.
What's kind of amazing about that is that I don't tend to have a lot of viewers, which is fine. You know, I'm brand new and also don't do a lot of like advertising, getting the word out and whatnot. I just kind of hop on when I'm ready and I hop off when I'm done, and that's that. But I will sit here and I'll just be like totally talking to myself, like totally lost in the game, and then I'll see like the viewer count will have ticked up from like 0 to 1 or 2 or something like that. I was like, oh shit, people are seeing this.
Right, you're like, oh yeah.
Oh yes, I mean, yeah, the game definitely.
Totally was. I meant to say that. Oh crap! Yeah, yeah. That's it. It's like this. It's this weird world where, you know, like it just becomes perfectly acceptable. And you know, there's recently, well, I guess a week ago, by the time people are watching this, but like, you know, there was this controversy with someone, a named individual who was like, people who watch people play video games are stupid. But like, they miss out. But like, it's no different than what they're doing. Like, you tune in to watch a person entertain you. They talk about topics, they make jokes, things like it's no fucking different than watching that person do the same thing, sit at a desk and talk about stupid things as well. Like, it doesn't there's no difference. I just happen to be playing video games at the same time. Like, yeah. I'm not talking. Like, that's what I think the other impression people get is they think like I'm just sitting there quietly playing video games and you're just watching me play games. But that's really not what Twitch is about. It's interactive. The person talks, they put on a show, they talk about the game or talk about something else. Shit, I talked about movies on my last day. We went through tons of lists of movies on my last stream, and we talked about that for like an hour and a half with chat. Like, we just, you know, just hung out and talked.
I've been like totally opposite ends of the spectrum. I've been playing mostly either Cozy Grove or Mortal Kombat 11. And you know, just play by play the things that I'm doing, like in Cozy Grove. I'm like, oh, what character?
Yeah.
Like, oh, let's go see Jeremy, and like, oh, I got to fix my shovel. Jeremy, fix my shovel. You know, But then in the opposite end of the spectrum, as I was joking earlier with Mortal Kombat, it's like, holy shit, did you see where he shoved
Right.
that pole arm? The blade went right through his nose. Holy shit.
And that's the great thing about Twitch, is that you get you get whatever entertainment you want out of it. That's what I think is amazing, or just streaming in general, because obviously Twitch is not the only streaming service for this.
Sure.
It's, you know, also like YouTube and Facebook and stuff like that.
And Mixer. Oh, wait.
Oh, pour one out. Pour one out for Microsoft. Yeah, every time I see a report of where Microsoft's like, yo, we're going to buy this company, I'm like, oh, cool, Microsoft's going to go tank that company. Great.
Yep.
Because they have this like horrible, and I know they mean well, but they just have this horrible history of investing in something and then like very quickly losing interest. But like Facebook and Instagram, they are no different. They've done the same thing where they'll like buy a startup and be like, yeah, we're totally going to integrate this, and like, look, it's this new thing. And then all of a sudden, like 6 months later, you're like, oh, whatever happened to that one thing? And then it's just gone. They lost interest and now it's gone.
Yeah, all big tech is like that, and it's fucking weird. Yeah, Google's had a few. Not Google. Well, Google's a whole other story.
That's a whole other story. Yeah,
Microsoft has had a few success stories with acquisitions, things that they've turned around and made, if not better, at least like kind of kept going. Like, you know, LinkedIn's still a thing. GitHub is fine.
Did Microsoft buy LinkedIn?
Oh yeah, years ago.
Oh, I missed that one.
They bought LinkedIn because, you know, Microsoft's the work company, so they want to have like every aspect of your work and your professional life. Hey,
I don't want any of that.
We're the cool work people. And then of course they bought GitHub because they probably realized that their own dated in-house version control was garbage, and they're like, shit. Everybody likes this. If we buy this, they'll like us too. I don't know what the story. I don't think it's much of a moneymaker, considering that. I don't. You know what? I don't fucking know.
Well, it just comes down. I wonder if it's like this weird thing where it's like, would it be cheaper for us to ground up build this and do the support, or just buy someone who's already doing it and be like, hey, just keep doing this, but you're Microsoft now. Like, and I know tech does this all the time, but
yeah. For a company like Microsoft specifically, like when you have the kind of cash flow they have, it is absolutely cheaper to just get the company, again, like buy the resources of people who, and like tech stack and everything that are already doing it. It gets a little bit fuzzier when you have smaller companies that start to do the mergers and the gobbling up and whatnot.
Right.
Is that like I've been in those conversations of like, well, not should we buy this company, but like, should we buy this product, or like, what would it cost us to make this,
right,
versus just paying for the product? Like, do we feel this is feasible?
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that one. I've been in not been in conversations, but been there on a marketing side of like, can we just do this ourselves? Like, can we just from scratch do this, or should we just pay someone to, pay someone that already has established? And we've gone through those sort of things, but yeah, tech is weird. But anyways, we're not here to talk about tech. That's our other podcast, the Never Teched It podcast. I don't know.
To tell me do things and I done run and
we're here in fact. We're here, in fact, to talk about movies, and specifically this movie you might not have heard of. So that being said, hello and welcome to the Never Heard of It podcast. I'm your host, Michael Fight.
And I am Caleb. And by 2/3 of the way through this podcast, I will become a god.
For some reason. I don't know. So
inexplicably. Men will literally use secret military technology to turn other men into gods instead of going to therapy. What is up? Dude, so we're here talking about the movie Higher Power, which exactly like all the movies we're talking about this month is available streaming on Hulu in America, and I believe it's also on Amazon Prime. But right now, it's Hulu is the one.
Oh no, it is only on Hulu here in America.
Look at that.
America, land
America.
of the free.
Fuck. I was watching a comedian the other night. I think it was on. I think it was on the Netflix series, The Stand Ups, where they did like 6 comedians in one show, and they just split it up into like 30-minute
Yeah, look,
segments, and
they each
carried
get
it
their little bits.
as a season. And one of them was she was English, and she was talking about how America's national anthem should have been "America, fuck yeah."
But seriously, I mean,
You know
that
what?
is
It is like objectively better than the Star Spangled Banner.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think much less controversial too. I think that's yeah.
I think people would get into, even the people who are like, we fucking love the anthem would be super into it if that was the anthem.
Right. No, they would be totally into it.
And they'd know the
I
words,
still
too.
think that people would be into it. I don't think if we pitched that, I feel like only like the Million Mom group would be mad, but everyone else would be like, yeah, I mean, I know it swears, but it kind of is a good song, though.
But it slaps.
But it really hits all the points about America we want. So it's a tough one. So we're talking about the movie Higher Power. Now, I remember like vaguely seeing maybe a trailer or something, or like just coming across this movie at some point, probably in 2018. But let me tell you, not a lot of people saw this.
In the coming attractions?
In the coming attractions, yeah. I was trying to fast forward on my VHS, and coming soon to home theater. Do you remember back in the VHS? Yep, that was great. Yeah, those are awesome. But so just off the bat, yeah, go ahead.
I got to get this out of my brain hole because you said you remember those on VHS. We went to a new and used record store down the street over the weekend. Just to check it out. They had relocated from another spot, actually in our old neighborhood, so it was very convenient. And we're wandering through, and they literally had just boxes of like VHS and like other old dated medium, but the VHS ones were labeled $1 or free with purchase. Now you might think, oh, this is like, a bunch of like old like $5 bin action titles from Walmart or something like that. No, this was legit like handwritten label, like copied from the TV that day.
So that is amazing.
like the ultimate, like, oh, that was my childhood, just in a box.
Right. Where it's like series finale of Cheers, Roy's wedding. You're like, oh wait, what? Stephanie's dance recital.
I told you about how we had the like massive boxes of VHS tapes. That was how I first discovered the Puppet Masters. It was very much like that, where like it could have been just those boxes from my old house.
Oh my god, that is amazing. Oh, VHS.
Go on.
So anyway, so the thing about this movie is, a lot of people have probably never heard of this movie, and the reason why I'm going to say that is strictly based off its box office opening weekend numbers. It did $299.
Holy shit!
$299. Now, if you estimate ticket prices in 2018 were what, $10 maybe?
I would say they were even higher.
They were even higher? That means literally they didn't even fill one theater worth of people to see this movie. It was like maybe 30 people saw this movie, but worldwide gross was 528 people. That means less than 100 people likely saw this in a theater and paid for it.
I don't know that I've like, that feels like it has to be a typo or an omission of some
like
zeros.
They're missing zeros.
Because I don't know that I've ever seen the numbers listed for a movie like worldwide gross was, less than what I was looking at spending on a record player.
Right. Right. My TV costs more than the worldwide gross of this movie. That doesn't even cover catering for 1 week of this film. Like that literally didn't even cover the crafty for the week of this film. Like they couldn't even feed the crew for that.
We spent more on a lawyer for one task, one small aspect of the Night Shift Media Group, than this film made worldwide.
And that's rough. Now, it did not get a lot of reviews, a lot of good reviews. Its rating on IMDb is a 4.8 out of 10. Now here's the thing. I can see why people did not rate this movie well, but also I think it has a lot of potential.
So I spent, obviously we'll get into the heart of this, but I spent this entire movie waiting for it to either turn absolute batshit or blow my mind being cool. And it kind of did neither.
True. Yes.
And like, I'm very much left thinking like, I don't actually know how I feel about this movie.
Yeah, no. So the very confusing part about this movie is like you spend a lot of them, like you see them building up, Joe Everyman or Joe Stedman is his name. It's John Everyman. He spends it's Dollar Store Garth Brooks, by the way. That's or Dollar Store Billy Ray Cyrus.
It's fucking Chip Gaines.
Yeah, I know. But
I watched the trailer, and that was the first thing that came to my mind. And no matter how many times they showed him like close up, and like, yeah, like you're Chris Gaines or Garth Brooks or whatever.
Garth Brooks is alternate ego guy.
Yeah, like,
yep.
Those comparisons are apt, but all I could see was Chip Gaines, and like this is what happens when Chip's life goes totally wrong.
Right. Oh, I mean, I feel like it's very in line with that.
This is what happens if something were to happen to Joanna and the kids and the farm. This was like Chip's life would spiral like this.
Poor guy.
Listen, I love Chip and Joanna Gaines. They're so wholesome.
They're delightful. So it starts with him, and the whole idea is that he spirals out of control and loses his life, loses his family, gets addicted to drugs because his wife dies of, let's say, cancer, some sort of disease. She's terminally ill and she dies, and she's like, promise me you'll take care of the family. And he's like, okay. And then he just completely fucks that up. But like, here's the thing. There's a lot of weird elements about this movie because the start of the movie is very Matrixy, like, I'm talking to you through your computer, and you're like, who are we talking to? And makes you think maybe they're talking to Joe Stedman. Mm-hmm. We find out later that that's not the case. And it was a really weird reveal where it was kind of like, well, if this is what you were revealing, like, why didn't you have him be more important the entire time? Like, it was just really weird.
Yeah, and then there was a total doomsday subplot, like, the end of the world is coming in this specific way, and like we got to be prepared for it. And then like you basically just like mostly forget about that until the very end when there's a payoff, and it's like.
But the thing about that is that the person who claims the end of the world thing that's happening, he's still acting like everything's normal, and he was like, yeah, dude, we're about to die from this giant laser blast from a black hole any minute now. Mm-hmm. Anyways, I'm just gonna go to the library with my girlfriend and pretend like everything's normal. It'd be like, yeah, I feel like this should be like there should be a little more alarmist behavior in you, not just like, well, LOL.
You're the guy who literally wrote the book on the end of the world,
right?
Like, do we believe you? Because like you don't seem all that concerned.
Just like, I have a really strong psychic prediction that the world is going to end on New Year's Day, 1991. whatever it is. I mean, doesn't leave a lot of room for book sales, am I right? If anybody gets that reference, everyone else gets that reference, you're awesome. It's on Valentine's Day, 1991. Yeah, so we get the beginning where we are introduced to this character Michael, who's like 22, but apparently he's this accomplished astrophysicist who has predicted that basically what's going to happen is a gamma explosion is going to happen. It's going to get sucked into a black hole, but the black hole is not going to be able to maintain all of the gamma radiation and all of the energy, and it's basically going to shoot it back out laser style, space laser style, and it is going to collide with Earth and many other planets, basically annihilating all of our solar system. Like that's the theory.
The drama of, so what you're saying is like this massive burst of like cosmic radiation is the last thing that mankind will see before Earth is destroyed. Yes, I am saying that. Like that's so dramatic. Like that's such a huge bit. Like how will we prevent this? How will we save the Earth? I guess we're just fucked.
Yeah. I don't know how to stop it. I'm just telling you it's happening. Jeez. Ask so much of me. And then so the movie starts off with that, with our huge apocalyptic thing. We got our little Matrix thing, and then we have 20 minutes of opening credits, and I'm like, what is this necessary? Like, do we really need to be talking like having this long of an opening credit scene? Like, it's just, this isn't Godzilla, you know? And it didn't even hold any exposition really. So now the movie jumps and we meet Joe Stedman. You know, we get a couple of kid flashbacks. We get this, you know, cool, you know, it was kind of this cutesy family lovey moment where, you know, him and his young girl, you know, she's, you know, maybe 4 or 5 at this time, and they're looking at a lighthouse, and the lighthouse is flashing its pattern, you know, that it lets people know, you know, how it signals to boats, and it flashes the pattern 143, and he's like, oh, well, you know what that means. It's I love you. I, 4 letters for love, 3 letters for you. So 143, and that's like their cute little thing, which is kind of like the I love you 3000. It was very cute. It is very cute, but it's, I don't know. I had trouble this whole movie really connecting the father daughters plural, like, story. Like, I felt like they should have spent more time with the father and the daughters than they did, because, like, when he goes off to, like, do his rescue thing, or when he comes back and addresses Zoe, I was just kind of like, I don't know, fuck that guy. Like, he got all drugged out and, you know, ditched them after their mom died, and now, you know, they're fucked up because of it, and now he comes back and he's weird about it. Like, I don't know. Like, I didn't feel like I didn't get the sense that he was trying.
So let's dig into this a little bit. So we get just a couple of, did not mean to do that.
Don't do that.
I hit a button and it accidentally opened Apple Music.
Oh,
no
boy.
No interest. So we get a couple of these like home video style flashback sequences where we get to see Zoe as a kid, and, you know, the mother pregnant with Rhea, and then giving her a name, and, you know, like you said, there's the lighthouse scene, and Zoe gives Joe a special magic rock that will protect him, and blah blah. You know, it's adorable. Okay, we set that aside. We get another flashback where the girls are like teenagers, and, you know, dad's come home from his time out on the fishing boat, and Rhea's interviewing. Like, okay, so like there's a little bit of a connection there. That's great, but like that's essentially all we get of their girls as kids, and of the relationship with the father. We get a little bit of the mother dying, and then we're just supposed to accept that Zoe in her early 20s and Rhea as like a late teenager, basically like 17 years old. Like, Zoe gets her life together and goes off and, like, you know, goes to medical school. Rhea completely falls apart and, you know, spirals down into drug use and who knows what else. There's implications that she's been kind of forced into a life that she's not entirely happy with. Like, we're just supposed to accept that, like, these things have happened, and also that they both just fucking hate their dad and like won't talk to him because like he had a bad time dealing with like the grief of losing his wife, and it's this irreconcilable break between the three of them. Just, and it also like can't have been that long ago,
Right. Because Zoe's 25.
Yeah.
She says, yeah.
And so she will say that she was, like you said, she was probably like 4 years old or so when Rhea was still like not yet born, which means that this had to have happened all roughly when she was about 21 or so. So we'll say about 4 years. Her dad's been sober for 1 year. He gets his 1 year chip from Naranon during the one of the sequences of this movie that give us some exposition and some backstory and whatnot. So roughly there's a 3 year period where their lives all simultaneously just spiral into shit.
Yeah.
And then, like we know nothing about that other than he fucked up and they hate him for it, and that's it.
Right. Like it's really weird, it's really vague. And the problem is that they showed this other character who is just labeled as Control, who is played by Colm Fiore.
It's great. He's the from Reginald Hargreaves in Umbrella Academy. So he's like the dad.
Yeah, yep. He's also I recognized him from the Chronicles of Riddick. He's the Lord Marshal. Huh? I know, I totally would. He was the Lord Marshal, but we get a lot of Joe Stedman's backstory from him. Mm-hmm. So like he talks, like we see through the eyes of this Control who is like, sitting at Matrix style computers and security things, and he's hacking the interwebs, and he's explaining like, oh, this is Joe, and he's he's got anger issues and drug use, and his wife died and blah blah blah. And it's like all of that could have been done by showing Joe go through it instead, and I would have cared more about anything Joe was doing and less about Control.
Yeah. And like we get a little like we make the joke about oh shit, he was Adar in Galactica too. That's funny.
Oh,
anyway,
dang.
Go check out our other podcast, Second Edition 1, for more about Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah.
So I made the joke about turning other men into God instead of going to therapy. Joe actually goes to therapy. Joe is doing the right thing to try to get his life together. He's
right.
He's in counseling for his drug addiction. You say he's a year sober. He's really trying to get his life back on track. He's seeing the therapist about his anger issues, and the therapist is giving him some meaningless platitudes about like, oh no, you control your emotions and not the other way around. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, great. We see that like he's working on that, and then like you mentioned, he goes to try to like reconnect with Zoe and like give her a present and whatnot, and she's just like, I don't want to have this conversation, Dad. Leave me alone. And then Michael, what's his name? Michael?
Yeah.
Fucking guy's named Michael.
Seriously, he's a fucking like, douche like all Michaels.
He's like, you're embarrassing your daughter, and I'm gonna fight you for it.
Listen, bro, just step aside, bro.
Yeah,
bro.
Yeah,
what are you doing, bro?
Yeah,
like, fuck you, dude. That's my kid. Like, fuck off.
And because we have to have an example of Joe's anger issues somewhere in order to make them real. He starts to like beat the shit out of Michael, and then like realizes like, oh my god, what am I doing? I'm so sorry. And then of course that ruins all possibility of reconciling with Zoe, as though the scene was implying that there was any possibility to begin with. Ugh. We talked about this in Rachel Getting Married, but I don't know how realistic it is because I haven't really lived through it. I mean, I have, but like, we'll say that I haven't. I don't understand how, like, this constant like Hollywood trope of like the person who's in recovery and people just fucking hate them and like won't help them, won't show them love or whatnot, or like, oh, we've given up on you. And I know we don't need to go down that road again because we did before, but like I don't get it. I don't understand why that's used to drive stories forward. Like I feel like most families, unless something just truly heinous happened, like most families would still try. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, I agree, and that's I think one of the failures of this film is that they don't show or even really tell you like how bad it was. All we know is that he got depressed, he got into drugs and drinking, and supposedly has anger issues, but we see no examples of it in the past that reflects to Zoe. We do, however, see it in this one instance. But again, like without knowing that backstory, which we don't, when Michael goes after him after he's just trying to talk to his kid, I mean, like maybe not hitting him is not justified, but like physically pushing back on Michael, who is separating him from his kid, after he's come and he's been like, hey, look, I've been clean for a year, here's my chip, I've got a thing, like maybe we could go talk to your sister, like we need to rescue your sister, because that's also the other thing that he goes there for is he's like, she's like, why aren't you with Rhea? And he's like, well, she's not going to only listen to me, but if you and I go together as a family, like we can like he's been sober for a year, like he's like, I've got my chip, I've been sober for a year, your sister is drugged up right now, she's in a bad way, like she's clearly being forced to do things that she does not like and is not consenting to, like you and I as a family should go rescue your sister. And then Michael comes up and like pushes him on the chest and he's like, what the fuck, dude, like this is my family, like I am attempting to rescue my daughter and I need my other daughter's help. Like I think Michael's in the wrong here, I totally do. Like he is, and it's just kind of shitty. But again, it's that, as you mentioned, it's just like you don't understand the animosity that Zoe has because we don't know. Like you just don't know what he did. You're just supposed to like assume he did something terrible, but like you gotta show it or tell it or something because it didn't connect.
Yeah, and like the only thing that kind of makes this scene make sense is like as the film goes on and you start to realize that they're almost doing like a Killing Joke type thing where they're needling him and needling him and needling him, trying to push him over the edge to something. Like we see Control and the people that are helping him out throughout this like are just like seeing how far they can push Joe.
Yeah, and this scene really kind of is one of the few moments that really connects to the end of the movie, to the twist ending. I don't know, or the reveal at the end of the movie.
What's a twist?
What a twist. But yeah, so like we see as he pushes Michael up against the fence thing, we then see via like security cam footage that Control is watching this, and this is where we get the instance of like he has anger issues and blah blah blah, and we see that he has gotten a job at the front desk of some unnamed big corporation, and somebody asked him like, oh, how did you get this job? And he's like, I don't even know, they reached out to me and I got this job. So like it's this mysterious like things are working in the background, and honestly I wish they went into that way more. Like I feel like we should have been following Joe more than we did. Like I feel like Zoe got more like one-on-one screen time than Joe actually did outside of like the end of the movie. Like we followed like I learned way more about Zoe than I did Joe, which I thought was weird. Like it didn't make me care for Joe. I just didn't care. He was barely in the movie.
It's like the premise of the story doesn't really work as like a series, but it's almost like this maybe should have been a mini series so that we get more character development around Joe and more of like what is Control doing and like all of these little pieces as they like steadily come to a head, and maybe get a chance to learn more backstory about the family and exactly what happened. I don't know if there's a better way. Well, there has to be a better way, but I don't know what the better way is to present all this, but I know that this ain't it.
I definitely feel like if they added 20 minutes to the movie and took out a bunch of weird, like some of these weird moments that were there, I definitely feel like it could have been a more slimmed down plot and character driven, and less of like all these bunch of pieces that they were trying to like, oh, here's this one piece and here's another piece and here's another piece and here's another piece, and in the end they all kind of connect together, but you still felt disjointed. But but I definitely feel like it could be doctored.
Maybe
Manhattan.
Rely less on like the text on the computer screen to like for further the narrative. Like, oh, phase 1, we have to see what he can handle. I don't like
right.
They tried to tell too much of the story through Control's computer screen and not enough through actual narrative.
Oh, totally. Yeah. So before we dive a little further into this, let's go ahead and take a quick break. Before we do that, one, I want to thank you guys for listening. We super appreciate it for you guys stopping in. And for those of you on YouTube, also thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And for those listening on your podcast player of choice, also don't forget to subscribe. We super appreciate it. And of course, if you're on Apple Podcasts, leave a rating and review. That's what gets us in that, the top film podcast of the day or whatever. The more reviews, the better. And then lots of people will listen to us and it'll be fantastic. But Caleb, what's a good website for people to go to if they want to see what's happening in the world of Night Shift Media Group and never heard of it?
I say in the world, news.google.com. Yeah, so you can find out things that are going on with the entire Night Shift Media Group by heading over to nightshiftradio.com. You can check out all our shows, the Storyteller series print editions over there. We've got some great blog content, and we're trying to as often as possible get site updated with new and fresh and exciting stuff. So definitely keep your eyes open there. But if you're curious about specifically what we're up to in the crazy world of Never Heard of It, you can visit thenahoit.com to go directly there, or you can click right on the front page of nightshiftradio.com. We've got the Never Heard of It banner there. And there you can see, we get a feed of our recent episodes. You can see what we've got upcoming for the month. We'll give you links to trailers as well as where you can find these movies streaming if available. As Michael said, this entire month, the movies are currently, as of today when we record this, they're all streaming on Hulu. Obviously, as we've learned, that could change by the time we actually go to watch them, but right now that's the case. We also have a little contact form on that page where we encourage you to let us know not only what you think of the show, but if there's any movies that you want to hear us talk about.
Yeah, no, we highly encourage that. We love to do listener requests. We've done 2 months of them before. We've done 2 full months of listener requests, and we will absolutely do them again because you guys find the wildest movies and we love it. Absolutely love it. So definitely do that. We would super appreciate it. And of course, you can follow us on social media. For those of you watching on YouTube, our individual social media channels are listed. Our Twitters are listed directly below us. But in the show notes and descriptions for all of our stuff, you can find links to our social channels as well as other places you can locate us. So let's go ahead and quickly hear from some other podcasts from Night Shift Radio, and we will be right back.
Looking for something heroic in your life? Go check out our friends at the Superpod HeroCast. They are guys with beers talking about movies with capes. Every episode goes in depth with a different superhero movie. A classic of modern cinema? A certified stinker? It doesn't matter. If it's a superhero movie, they're going to talk about it. Start with a little bit of comedy, add in some film analysis, and finish it off with a heaping dose of geekery. You've got the Superpod HeroCast. It doesn't matter if you're a casual fan or a 20th level nerd. Download their latest episode, grab a beverage, and enjoy the fun. The Superpod HeroCast. Be heroic.
Second Edition 1 is Night Shift Radio's Battlestar Galactica fancast. Each week, Battlestar veterans Caleb and Kitsy revisit, and newcomer to the show, Andrea, watches for the first time the 2004 sci-fi series Battlestar Galactica. They've just entered their 3rd season, which means you've got 2 full seasons of sci-fi gold to binge if you want to watch along with them. Whether you're the commander of a soon-to-be decommissioned battleship, or were recently promoted to president of the 12 colonies. Join Caleb, Kitsy, and Andrea as they make their way through the Battlestar Galactica universe 1 episode at a time. Watch Battlestar Galactica free on Peacock and find Second Edition 1 at Second Edition 1 throughout the podcast.com or wherever you get podcasts. Hello and welcome back. So here we go.
Did you know
probably
that Ron Eldard, who plays Joe, was a
Yeah.
boxer.
I did not know that.
He was a Golden Gloves boxer. And
I am a boxer and a blah 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 blah.
He did just some spotty stuff here and there in his very early career, but he's been around surprisingly, like has quite an acting resume, but hasn't done anything since this movie.
Interesting.
Yeah, been in a bunch of TV shows. He was in ER. He's been in SVU. He was in Justified. Stuff like that, and like. He was in Ghost Ship and House of Sand and Fog and
Deep
Super
Impact.
8. So like he's been in some fairly well known movies. Sleepers.
I did recognize him.
He probably didn't have like big parts in these, but like he's been around, and here he is playing coked up Chip Gaines.
Yeah. Yeah, so where we left it is we're starting to get the introduction of all of our players. So we've got Control. We understand there's this weird underground force that's happening. We mentioned the character of Michael earlier in the film. He's the guy who basically says that gamma radiation is going to kill us all any minute now. And we learned that he is actually dating Zoe, so that's our connection to that. Which so Zoe and Michael
really are odd, right? Like that. Did that strike you as like what are the chances?
Yeah, but also it struck me as like she's 25, so like how old is he to have made this like huge discovery? Because I mean he looks to be late 20s, but like I mean, he couldn't have gotten his doctorate yet. Like, if you assume that he did everything at scale, like graduated at 18, from high school, 4-year bachelor's degree at 22, master's degree at 24, 25, and then doctorate at 27, 28. So, like, what's his history? Like, how does he figure this out? Like, what's his,
So here's the thing.
Sure.
That's going to trip you up is he looks pretty young in this movie. The movie was released in 2018, so that was what, 3 years ago?
3 years ago. Yep.
All right. He's 3 years younger than we are.
Wild.
So 3 years ago we would have been 36, so he would have been 33. Yeah, so he would have been like early 30s. So he very well could have had his doctorate and be an established voice in astrophysics or whatever the hell his field actually was.
Yeah, I guess this could have been like his thesis or whatever.
But yeah, he looks like he's like 22.
Yeah.
It's fucking weird.
It is pretty weird. I mean, it was just weird. So anyways, now we're starting to see how everything's connected. We're understanding that Control has an interest in Joe, and that they're obviously lining him up and setting him up to make him be some sort of test subject. We don't exactly know for what, but we do know that they're like, he's perfect. He's the one to, blah, 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 and do the thing. And so they kidnap Joe, and they inject something into Joe's eyeball, and then set him back on the world. So now Joe is back in the world, and we hear he wakes up, and now he has a voice in his head. Somebody is talking to him, and they say like, we can see what you see. We can also make you see whatever we want, and you can hear me. Here's what you have to do. There is a gun in this alley. Pick it up. So he goes, he picks up the gun. Some woman turns the corner and is like, oh my God. And he's like, you have to help me, blah, blah, call the police. And the voice in his head is like, shoot her in the head. Shoot her right now. Kill her, kill her, kill her. If you don't kill her, then they show him images of Zoe and Rhea basically being tracked by henchmen. And he's like, if you don't kill her, we're going to kill your kids. And he's like, okay, fine. I do want to point out, now look, I'm not a gun expert, but when he opens the case, we see the gun and the clip.
Mm-hmm.
And he only picks up the gun and not the clip.
Mm-hmm.
And then aims the gun at the girl. And he was like, Control's like, shoot the woman in the head. So he pulls the trigger, but obviously it's empty. because he didn't put the bullets in the gun. Like, I know that the point was that it was blanks anyways, because it was a test. She turns out to be someone working for Control. But, like, he didn't even try.
I mean, I guess we could benefit of the doubt to say that that was an extra clip, but the way that you're supposed to safely transport guns unloaded, it would make much more sense that that was the one and only clip of ammunition, and he just didn't know what the fuck he was doing.
Right. I mean, that's the other thing. Like, he was a fisherman, you know, like we have no background that he has ever used a gun in his life. You know, like we've talked about this before. Like we talked about this just recently with jujitsu, where they show you that a person can do actiony things by being like, oh, well, you know, back when you were in the Marines, you blah, blah, blah. Or like, well, you're a former cop, or, oh, you're a former bodyguard, or whatever it is that they insert storyline. So when the person does start like elite fighting, you're like, oh, well, they have this background of blah. But we have no background of that for Joe. So it is very likely that he wouldn't know how to load a gun, you know, cock it, a loaded gun, God complex. Cock it and pull it. Where's Andrea? I'm quoting Fall Out Boy. She's gonna freak out. Andrea, one of the co-hosts of Second Edition One, absolutely loves Fall Out Boy. But yeah, you know, like how would he even know to do it? But anyways, that I know is nitpicking, but showing the clip in the thing and just picking up the gun and firing it, that I feel like is a mistake. It should have just been a gun. Like there should have not been a clip there, just so you would have assumed, oh, the gun's just ready to fire.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just me. That's a continuity thing I would have called out had I been on set. I would have been like, wait, hang on. Props. What are you doing? But that's me. So you know, he does the whole gun thing, and she's like, we've got more shit for you, ass face, and then knocks him out, and now he's somewhere else. And so the next step he has to do is he has to go to this guy's house, get him to open his safe, type in a code in a laptop, and press a button on the laptop. So he breaks into this guy's house, who, by the way, is clearly a Trump supporter. Right? Like, yes. How do I know that he's a Trump supporter? Well, fun fact, who the fuck has a gigantic American flag draped over the headboard of their bed? And I'm talking like wall size. This guy's got to be in his 50s at least. Like, what sort of fucking weirdo has a gigantic flag You're an adult, man. Like, you're not in your fucking college dorm room. No. Get the fucking flag off your bedroom wall, you fucking weirdo.
Oh my god. But you know, like, how else would you know that he's been successful in business and in specifically in government contracts?
If
he doesn't sleep with the flag.
Yeah. Fucking jacking off to capitalism every night. What a fucking weirdo.
It's Richard Portnow, who like has been in a shit ton.
Yeah.
He's not new to acting. Like, I don't know enough about him to say like, oh, he deserved better, but like it seems like maybe he did.
Maybe he's actually about to play Justice William Douglas on Roe v. Wade, a movie coming out this year apparently. That looks to be a mess. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're right. He's been in tons of things. He was in Grey's Anatomy, but it's always like all of these really good TV shows, but he was only ever in one episode. Shameless, one episode. Grey's Anatomy, one episode. The Detour, one episode, and then a bunch of movies. Yeah,
had a recurring role in Parks and Rec.
Hey. Oh, who was he in Parks and Rec? I didn't get
Mitch
that far.
Savner.
I don't remember. I vaguely remember his face. So anyway, so Joe gets in with this guy, you know, and meanwhile, like, Joe's like, I'm sorry, like, they're making me do this, and he was like, you don't know what you're messing with, man. And like, I don't know. This whole scene just was like a cluster of awkward dialogue and I was like, I don't like, nobody is acting how I feel like they would act. It's really weird.
So the only real point to this scene is to show the connection between Control and what happens next. So we know that he's after some sort of tech, and we hear him mention at one point early on that Joe is the closest genetic match that they found, and it's all very vague. But they scan the laptop and they do some sort of like bogus wireless data transfer. I'm not even gonna get into that. But then he's like, put your thumb on the blinking light, and like scans him, and she's like, oh, genetic match. And then the business guy,
Charles Marjorie.
He's like, you're the match. And so like, oh, okay, so he has something to do with this thing that Control is doing. And Joe tries to be like, oh, listen, there's this voice and he's telling me to kill you. And so Charles is like, you crazy son of a bitch, I know you're in there. We shut this program down for a reason and you can't get away with it. And like goes on a little bit of a like villain caught in the corner monologue.
Right.
Just long enough for like Joe to kind of back him towards a wall where they drone snipe him. And like, okay, so like we get this whole exposition from Control how like Charles was like he did the government contracts and was like largely responsible for arming and equipping fighters in the Middle East to like spur conflict to make money off it. And like there's this whole like kind of self-righteous bullshit of like, oh, these people profiteered from war, so their deaths are meaningless. But meanwhile, like we're gonna also kill a bunch of people, but don't worry about it because their deaths are meaningless.
Yeah, the motive behind Control is vague at best.
At best,
like at best, it's like, well, they kind of want to do it because like, are they like zealots? Like, is this like some sort of I'm not really religious thing, but like, is this some sort of like doomsday thing? Is it like anti-capitalist extremists?
Mm-hmm.
Are they terrorists? Like, what is their actual motive? You don't ever really learn, and any one of them would do. Like, they literally could have just picked one and been like, they're anti-capitalist terrorists, and be like, cool, that's what they are. Or they're doomsday zealots. Cool, that's what they are. That works. But like, it's so open and vague that you just don't fucking care.
And so they get access to the technology, and they find out that Joe really is the match that they thought he was. So they send him on a mission to the lab, which is like Redlock or something like that is the name of it. And that's turns out that's the office where he like magically and mysteriously got the job. And like, you need to go after this thing on the 4th floor. And you have to find it in 4 minutes or we kill your daughter. Like this constant, like, or we kill your daughters, like bullshit. Like, fucking no. And again, I get that like the whole point is to needle him and needle him and needle him and needle him, but like it's so played out and it's so annoying. But it ends up at a machine, and they're like, "Oh, go in this room and flip this switch, and then we'll let her go." And he goes in, and of course they lock him in and run the machine. And now here we are, 2/3 of the way through the movie. They give Chip powers.
Now he's Dr. Manhattan.
Which, I said that was my first impression, and turns out that actually was what they based the character off of.
Which is, I mean, I don't know. Okay. I guess cool. So here's the other problem I have with the storyline. And it turns out exactly the way I would like if Control was in the room pitching me their plan. Like I'm a character in the movie, and they're like, all right, here's what we're gonna do. Here's the person we're gonna do it for, and here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna be like, hey, this sounds like a really bad plan, because this person seems very emotionally unstable, but has a high connection to their kids. And it seems like they would do anything they can to protect their family, in this instance, from what we've been watching over the past year of them, like getting sober and doing this and their drive to get back. I feel like this is only going to turn bad, and this isn't going to turn out the way you think it's going to. And they're going to be like, no, it's fine. He's going to do exactly everything we want him to do, exactly, with no hiccups whatsoever. And I'm like, I don't know, man. Pretty sure he's going to turn on you and rescue his family and save the day. And they're like, no, don't worry. Surprise.
Yeah, and so through a series of like continually escalating things, like they push him to like stress react more and more, and they're monitoring him, and they keep seeing like he starts to go through this like massive transformation, but then like stops, and they see like transfiguration failed or whatever. Again,
Right.
too much of the story is told from the computer screen. But anyway, we
Yes.
see like, oh, the transformation failed, and so they're like, we need to push him harder, and so they finally just straight up murder his daughters, and that is the final thing that like sets him off entirely. And Michael, who is the one who shoots Zoe, and we know that he's the doomsday scientist from the beginning. We learn that this whole thing, here's our twist, here's our big reveal. This whole thing was his plan to set in motion the events that would create this godlike super being that could save Earth from the cosmic laser beam that's coming for us all. So as like the final straw, he shoots Zoe, and some other nameless thug shoots Rhea, and like they broadcast that to Joe simultaneously as he's watching Zoe die, and he like blows up into this like planet-sized Superman being thing, and protects the Earth from the incoming laser and resurrects his daughters. And like as he's being torn apart at a molecular level, Control is like, deliver us. This was the plan all along. My life was worth it.
And then that's it. But like, so we spend an hour and a half getting to that point, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, what if, hear me out. Now, obviously, all of this stuff has existed. Like, this isn't just today. Like, this morning, they didn't come up with this plan. They've been following Joe for a very long time. Michael's been, he specifically went after Zoe because of Joe, which we never explain. They never explain how, like, why Joe. Like, how did they find out Joe? Like, or maybe I missed it, but they never are saying like, oh, this is how we know Joe is a match. This is how we're choosing Joe because he, I don't know, filled out a slip in the mall and we got his DNA and that's how we tested. Like we just don't know. But like, what if they just go to him and they're like, hey, dude, so there's a giant space laser that's going to shoot and blow up the planet, but we're going to give you these super duper cosmic powers. And those cosmic powers are going to save the entire world, including your kids. Hey, will you do that for us? And he would be like, yeah, but sure, let's do it.
But Michael, and then the only way he could ever possibly have the motivation to fully embrace the powers is if they kill his family.
Right. And well, that's the other thing too that gets me is there was all the, you mentioned this earlier about there's like weird time limits. There was all these very weird arbitrary, like, if you don't do this in this time, we're going to kill your family. And like, I get there was kind of like we need a thing to pressure him to do what we want. But like, it just didn't make sense. Like there was no sense. There was no point to it whatsoever. Now, the one thing I will compliment. Make it make sense. Now, the one thing I will compliment this movie on, and this is directly because of the writer and the director of this film, is that the effects are great. Like when he becomes Dr. Manhattan, he's like zooming through the sky, like at this super cool speed. When he turns into the giant guy, like it's awesome looking. Like it was absolutely fantastic.
Visually,
and that's because
it's great.
Yeah.
Even like the camera work of like, we debated whether or not this effect worked in jiu-jitsu, but like every now and then they shift into a first person, almost like Hardcore Henry-esque perspective, as they're seeing things through his eye implant, and like that works here. And like you said, the effects of when he's in his various states of transformation, they work. And like the color schemes that they used to show this, and like the pulsing lights and whatnot, it's very cool.
But like, so, and the reason is the director and writer of this film is Matthew Charles Santoro, who was the visual effects guy for The Incredible Hulk, the one with Ed Norton, for Aliens vs. Predator, for X-Men Origins Wolverine, for X-Men The Last Stand. He for the Dark Line, like he for Fantastic Four, the one with the Silver Surfer. So like he has it for 300. Like he has great experience in doing visual effects. And this was his first directorial and writer debut, which honestly, for a first directorial writer debut, this isn't bad. I mean, like shit, like I have worked on some really terrible first person films, and I've worked on some really good first person films. So like good for him. Like this was pretty good. Visually this is pretty good for a first film. From a storytelling point, it's not great. I have to say, it's not great. But
so he was
that's why.
Writer, director, editor, and did some of the visual effects in this. So, like he was very hands-on.
Well, sure. He only made $500 off this movie. He didn't have the budget to hire anyone.
That's how he did it without completely losing his ass. So like he just stayed up till like 5 a.m. every fucking day, slamming coffee, doing visual effects.
In between takes, he's the one like walking around giving fruit snacks to the crew and be like, "Oh, I'm the director, writer, visual effects supervisor, editor. Oh, I'm also crafty. Thank you very much.
Amazing.
I'm also one of the PAs, and I'm going to take out the garbage now."
Yeah. So after an hour of shitting on this movie, I will say that my feelings about this come from a place of like I honestly expected to love this.
Truthfully, yes.
The concept is really cool. As we said, visually it's stunning, and as much as I poke fun at what's his name looking like Chip Gaines, he does a good job in this like goofy, like awkward, like just painfully average guy with problems sort of character. Like we haven't even gotten into the jokes about the relative age of the women, where Zoe and Rhea are only 2 years apart, with Rhea actually being the older, but then their mom only being like 2 years older than
her. Yeah.
So there's some oddities with the casting, but all that aside, like I expected this to really hit, and it just didn't. And like I spent the whole time like okay, we're coming to it, and I felt like this is moving really slowly, and I did actually make it a point to pause the video at the moment that he got his powers to see that it was literally at the 2/3 mark.
Yes,
that was a lot of setup. Like you really you don't have a lot of time to deliver on the promise that you've teed up here.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it really was just like all of a sudden the movie's ending and he has powers and can control them, and then he does one big thing. He does a couple of little things and one big thing, and then the movie's over, and there's no real you don't get time to see him, really dive into the power thing, which, so that being said, should you watch this movie? I'm kind of torn. I feel like yes, just because visually the ending is a payoff, but I can't say that you're going to get a lot of story enjoyment out of this film.
And I almost wonder if it's the kind of thing where going back and knowing the reveal and knowing how things go together, if the pieces make more sense.
Sure.
Once they're presented as a whole. I don't know, maybe. What I would say is that I wouldn't tell someone not to watch this, which is obviously not high praise. And I like the $528 worldwide gross kind of makes sense because clearly there wasn't a lot of word of mouth buzz around it.
Yeah.
It was probably a lot of like, yeah, it was all right.
Right. Conversely, though, in this same year, another movie came out called Upgrade. And Upgrade came out in 2018. It had a budget of $5 million, and opening weekend, it did $4.6 million. Worldwide gross, it did $16 million. I've actually seen Upgrade. Upgrade is amazing. Upgrade is a great movie. And I would recommend watching Upgrade instead. It's a very similar premise. It actually is kind of like it's more of the Hardcore Henry side of film, but it's not filmed in first person, but it's more of the Hardcore Henry side, but it has kind of that same sort of premise of like guy who has no business getting things now all of a sudden has a thing and has to go off and do this. And it's funny, and you feel for the character, you get a good development of the character. I actually really liked Upgrade a lot, and I think that's a movie we should definitely cover one day too, but
sure.
I would recommend Upgrade over Higher Power. But if you were like, hey, should I watch Higher Power? I'm not going to tell you no. Like Caleb said, I'm not going to tell you no. I'm just going to be like, I mean, yeah,
sure.
You can. If you got nothing else to watch, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you've already watched all the other 174 movies we've recommended, yeah, go ahead and watch Higher Power. But yeah, so there it is.
If you sat through Wolves, then fucking watch Higher Power.
Right, like we've done worse. We've done so much worse. Yeah, so there it is. So Higher Power is streaming on Hulu in America. So if you are the type of person that waits for our review in order to decide if you want to watch a movie, that is where you can watch it. And for those of you that watched the movie because you heard our trailer about it, sorry if you didn't like it, and if you liked it, you're welcome. So either way, thanks a lot for joining us, everyone. We will be back again next Thursday with our trailer, talking about our upcoming episode. What is it this time? It's not Colossal. I Kill Giants. Colossal. No, it's Colossal. Colossal's next. Yeah, Colossal's next. We're doing yet another Anne Hathaway movie. So this is going to be pretty exciting. All right, everyone. We will see you next time.
Bye.